So hello and a big warm welcome to you. I'm Marion Rose and I'm a level 2 aware parenting instructor, and today I'm very excited to say I have Sarah Solter, who is the daughter of Aletha Solter, who is the founder. Aletha is the founder of the Aware Parenting Institute, and Sarah, you've very kindly agreed to have a conversation today to really share what it was like growing up being the daughter of Aletha and how that's affected your life. And so many parents ask me, what's it like to have grown up in this paradigm? So I'm so grateful that you're here to come and share some of your experiences with us. So welcome.
Thank you. Well, I've really been looking forward to talking to you and meeting you virtually.
So glad. So we thought when we were talking about this beforehand that we might split this up into 2 sections. So the first one is really more your memories of childhood and how that was growing up with a very different paradigm to what many other children grew up with, particularly in your era. And then we're going to do a second one, which is more about how your functioning as an adult, how aware parenting has really affected you and your life as an adult. So should we start off with your memories of childhood? Do you want to share a little bit about what you remember growing up within this paradigm?
Yeah. Well, first, I just wanted to say that my memories of childhood are all really fond, nostalgic, positive memories. I really feel like I had a wonderful childhood. I really got to be a child, and I still, many years into adulthood, to get nostalgic for my childhood. It's still a place that I remember as a place of safety, which is really great to feel that good about my childhood. It's very different from what I hear most other people saying about their memories of childhood.
Oh, wonderful. I really hear that, the fondness and the safety, 2 really vital pieces.
Yeah.
You did say you wanted to share about your age, because as we were talking,
oh yeah,
you look young.
I look young. Yeah, so maybe it'll be reassuring to people to know that I'm not new to adulthood. I'm actually 36, so I've been an adult for a while. I know I look much younger than that.
Yes, and for those who are listening to the audio version, maybe come and watch the videos.
Right. I look like I could still be in college, for those of you who aren't watching the video. And I've also just another sort of background piece on me is I'm married, and I've been married for 13 years.
Yay.
And very, very happily so.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. So memories. A lot of parents, when I put out a question to say I'm going to be interviewing someone who was brought up with aware parenting, and so many parents said, well, what was it like for them to be around other children who weren't brought up with this way? Maybe their feelings weren't listened to, or they were brought up more with punishments or awards, those kinds of things. Do you have memories of what it was like or when perhaps you first noticed that it was kind of different what you were experiencing?
Yeah, I have a few different memories I could share. So, I mean, first of all, like, my home life seemed totally normal to me.
Yes.
And that's just how families were, right? Because I think that's probably the case for a lot of children, no matter what their home life is like. It seems normal. That's what they're used to.
Yes.
I do recall some memories. They're not like very concrete memories. It's more impressions from like under age 8. We had some neighbors who lived on the same street, had 2 girls around my age, and also some friends from school. And in all cases, their parents punished. And I think the neighbor girls, their parents actually spanked them. And since they were literally like 3 doors down, we played together a lot and went over to each other's houses. And the impression I have is that I picked up on the unsafety of their home environment compared to my own. And it's not, as I say, a specific memory. It's just this impression of this feeling I had about it.
Looks like it touched
what?
you. Remember even
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
compassion for those
yeah.
that it didn't feel safe.
It didn't feel safe in their home to feel, to have emotions. I'm really, grateful that I had my own safe home in which to process the emotions I had about this. If I don't recall if I, had any specific incidents of crying about it or whatever, but I'm sure that if there was anything, it came out.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
To know that you, whatever showed up for you, whatever feelings came up for you, that you could take them home and that they would be heard and valued.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have some later memories. I think it's normal that from under age 8, memories aren't always going to be that concrete unless it's a very specific event, a momentous event, perhaps. But my other memory is kind of interesting. It's about punishment and actually about my first experience of being punished, which was not by my parents, let me assure you. But so from kindergarten through 3rd grade, I attended a school that Aletha actually helped found called the Alternative Class, and it was an open play based school, very free and open environment. And I chose on my own to switch to the kind of normal elementary school starting in 4th grade. And that is where I experienced punishment for the first time. And there's 2 specific events. One was playing on the playground at recess, and one day I was just playing and started going up the slide instead of down, because that's what kids will do, right? And one of the adults on the playground blew her whistle at me and wanted to bench me for it, which was a punishment to go sit on the bench and not get to play. I was really upset by this. My friends were really nice and tried to defend me and say that I was new and I didn't know the rules, which I didn't. I didn't know that there was a rule against going up the slide. But it felt really horrible to get punished like that for breaking a rule that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. And I know that I cried about that at home after it happened. And the other experience of punishment also in 4th grade was where, like, we went to the computer lab as a class, and there were rules about how to behave, and a couple of people in the class broke the rules, and they punished the whole class for it by making us go back to the normal classroom and put our heads down on our desks. And that really upset me as well.
Yes.
And I think, and I don't know, what this says about the experience of being raised this way, other than that punishment is just so foreign, and experiencing it for the first time at an older age like that, it was so such a disconnect from how I'd expected to expect to be treated as a child.
Yeah, so really shocking as well. I'm hearing it's like that kind of didn't make sense out of your frame of reference, like really foreign and unfamiliar. And
yeah, and obviously those 2 incidents are very impactful on me because I remember them so clearly still.
Yeah. And enough to, as you say, remember them, and to remember in that first instance that you went home and that you cried, that you had lots of upset feelings to and how painful that was to be responded to in that way. It's so interesting, Sarah, because I've been talking a lot recently actually about how we internalize these ways that we're responded to, so the punishments, for example, and how I've been saying to people. Imagine the first time you ever heard something like that, a punishment or a shaming or something like that, and how painful it would have been. And yet very soon that becomes normal, and then
Yeah.
internalize it and start to do it themselves. I call it emotional sticks. And to really go back to to imagine how it would have been that very first time to experience that experience. And here you are sharing your literal memory of that, because it was so unfamiliar and because you were older, that you know that you can still remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, for so many children, their first experience of punishment is, at age 2 or something, and it becomes normalized, I guess, so quickly. Yeah.
It becomes internalized, becomes, as you say, what we experience becomes familiar, and just how things are, and we tend to believe those things. So
Yeah.
Sharing how different it is to not, that isn't the norm, and that what I'm really imagining in life then, that there's almost like an expectation to be treated in respectful ways, and that it's painful when you're not treated in those ways. That becomes kind of like the norm. Does that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly raising children with aware parenting establishes the expectation of being treated in a respectful way. And I think then it's much easier for someone raised that way to recognize when non-respectful behavior is happening and see that it's outside the norm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a valuable thing, isn't it? When imagine, for parents, we generally want our children to have friendships, and then later on relationships, where they're being treated respectfully, and to be given that right from day dot means that's that's what they expect. That's what we expect to experience and want to continue to experience.
Yeah.
Very touched. So, do you have any particular memories of crying or raging as a child? I mean, you've already shared really those two, but maybe.
Yeah. I do. I have a pretty. I think I say it's a specific memory, but I think it was something that happened a lot, of the way that my parents actually used holding with me to help me cry. I don't know why I remember it so well, other than I think that must have happened many times. But specifically at night, when it was bedtime, if I had, they could tell that I was upset and needed to cry, but it wasn't happening.
Nice.
They would take me, one of them, it was often my father actually, would take me into the living room as the rest of the house was going to bed, and hold me on the couch. And actually, I mean, restraining me, not letting me run away or whatever, until I actually cried. And I know this is a practice that is maybe a little controversial, or can be difficult to feel like you're doing the right thing, because you're actually, the child's not crying yet, and you're restraining them to help them reach that point of crying. And so I actually remember experiencing this as the child, and I mean, my memory is that it was always better afterwards. It was always better to get to the point of actually crying and get through it. Yeah.
And again, I see that you I feel touched.
I think my emotions are close to the surface in general these days, but
which I love. Wonderful. And as you say, I talk to many parents, and I think that is one of the biggest concerns that parents have. And because of course we always want to make sure we're meeting our child's needs for choice and autonomy and respect. And I think holding has been used in ways that are very not respectful. And there's lots of if you look on the internet, there's lots of very challenging things and ways it's been used. So I always talk to parents about how it's really important that if we do ever turn to holding, that we're doing that from a very calm and connected place, and we do things like check out how they are afterwards. Our children, are they more connected, are they more relaxed, are they making eye contact, all the things that give us that reassurance that actually that's been a helpful thing rather than something that's been
Right.
But I think that's going to be amazingly reassuring for parents who often are. Almost anyone I've ever met doing aware parenting is like, but I don't know, they're just not going to sleep, and they're really agitated, and I'm doing loving limits and attachment play, and these feelings are just not coming out, but I just don't feel comfortable with holding them in any way. So to hear firsthand from you, I think would be reassuring for people.
Good. I'm glad.
And I often think that as well, to experience it ourselves. I remember I once experienced that with my ex-husband when he was still my husband, to be held in that way and to kind of do that, to kind of just speak that like that, to be held in that really safe space. I'm right here, I'm listening, I'm not going to leave you, and to really feel firsthand that how safe it can feel to be.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say to parents who are kind of sitting on that place in themselves about what you would?
I mean, in my experience, both from my memories of that as well as my experience as an adult having emotions and crying, that it's always like if your child is getting to the place where they are really crying and you're connected with them, like it's not like it's a genuine processing of the emotion, which I think you'll be able to tell that's always better, and that's what's needed.
Nice. And it's really
and so if you get whatever you do that gets them to that place is probably the right thing to do. And that's what I would say. But I'm not actually a parenting expert. I'm just the child of one.
Yeah, but I think that's so helpful. It really is so helpful to hear.
I mean, and they have to feel connected, like not leaving them alone, and then they end up crying, obviously. I hope that goes without saying.
All the basic things that there's connection.
Yeah.
As an adult, we're doing that from a compassionate place, not a power over or angry or frustrated place, but a real, true, connected, loving, compassionate place.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's just like that moment of actually finally like crying and releasing the emotion is so critical. And so being able to help your child get to that point is going to be really good for them.
Yeah. Do you know, I often talk about if we didn't experience that as children, that often can be scary almost to, and this may be a little bit more about our second topic, because it can be, there's not that familiar sense of, if I go into the big feeling, yes, it's going to be really big and intense, but if I'm held and supported and loved in that, I'll come out the other side and I feel more relaxed and more calm and more present and all these things. And I think if we didn't experience that, it can often be, I often hear that with parents, but they're getting more intense, or they're getting over something, overworked or over, because they haven't, as parents, the parents didn't experience as children what it was like to be in that intense feeling and come out the other side. So I wonder, is there anything you could speak to around your memories of like going into and being in that intense feeling and coming out the other side again?
I don't know if I really remember that specifically. I mean, I remember plenty of more recent times as an adult, but as a child, I feel like my memories of it aren't quite from internal. They're like from like knowing that it happened and like watching myself in my memory, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Did you have a sense of like, if a feeling came up that you kind of knew that it was, that you felt kind of comfortable with it because you knew that you would be held in this and come out the other side, emotionally or physically held in that?
Maybe from later, like from my teenage years. communication. Like I recall actually getting, this is jumping ahead, I think, in questions we planned to talk about, but or jumping ahead in time to being a teenager. But I recall, I think, like getting angry and actually like yelling at my mother a few times as a teenager. And it was always when I needed to cry. And so I think I knew that somewhere inside me, because I remember feeling kind of like a relief when it like broke, and then I would start crying instead of being angry.
Again, thank you. That's so helpful, because again, often parents come and they say, "But my child's saying I hate you," or they're pushing me away or telling me to go away. And
right.
I don't know what to do. Is that true? And shall I really go away and leave them when they're crying? And so again, it's really helpful. Do you have anything to say around that, when the going away thing? Did you ever, from your memories or even your experience, that you actually?
Wait, of what?
Well, did you ever? You may not have ever said that, but often children will seem to say they're starting to feel upset, and they might say, "Go away, leave me."
Oh, and saying, what are they?
Or and parents often again feel concerned because they want to respect the child's
Right.
needs for choice. But to me, my experience told me that actually, when children are saying that, they don't actually want to be left alone. They want us to actually stay. Do you have anything to say?
I don't know if I ever said that. At least not that I can recall.
You need to, because you weren't working with that kind of. Okay, thank you.
Maybe, I don't know.
Anything else around memories or thoughts around being given choices, or attachment play, or family meetings that you'd like to share with me?
Oh, family meetings. I love family meetings. I have a great memories of having family meetings. And I think what stands out to me is that I felt really empowered by them. And I'm the youngest in the family. My brother's 5 years older, and I'm also the smallest. I'm only 5'2", and my brother is 6'3", and my parents are both like 5'8". And I guess I'm talking in inches and feet,
Yes,
not
those as
yeah.
well.
Anyway, so I'm smaller and younger than everybody else in my family.
Yeah.
Still. But I think that I really felt empowered by family meetings. And I mean, I put things, so we had an agenda that was on the refrigerator that we could write things down on throughout the week. And then once a week we'd have a meeting and go through the agenda items that people had written down. And so I would write all sorts of things on the agenda during the week. And one thing in particular that came up a lot, and I think that I put on the agenda a lot, was chores. And we would split up the chores cooperatively during the family meetings. And I put it on the agenda a lot because I get bored with my chores and want to change things up. And I think it was really great that I, got to do that, and that they were open to just, okay, we'll talk about chores once a month if that's what we need to do, or however frequently it was.
I love that. I love that. Like,
Yeah.
joy as you remembering that, and that empowerment, and that you got bored, but you knew that was taken seriously and valued, and that actions changed because you kept writing on the list.
Yeah, and then also I would put stuff on there, minor conflict things with my brother. And let me say that my brother and I get along very well. We're good friends, and we always have been. We never really fought or anything. But he is 5 years older, and he did go through a phase of teasing me and kind of maybe testing. I think because I was like at a different cognitive stage from him, and that he would sort of test like that aspect of things. But so I put stuff on there related to that, and that was great to also have that way of working things out with him, and not just feeling like I was always lesser behind, or whatever
Yeah.
negative feelings that younger siblings can get. Yeah.
I love that. So you knew that again. You had a voice. You always had a voice.
Yeah.
Empowerment that, despite being the smallest and the youngest, your voice was heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. Anything else that attachment play? Any thoughts or memories or anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, one small kind of funny memory about play is when I was around 12, we had neighbors who had a daughter who was, I think, around age 6, so she was about 6 years younger than me, and they played with her a lot for a while around that age. And I recall that I often fell into doing power reversal games with her. And I think it was, I mean, I know it was because they had been done with me, and not just for whatever reason in the interactions with her felt like an appropriate thing to do. And I think, I don't know, I remember it being fun from my perspective. I hope that she had got something out of it.
So lovely. Yeah. So from your experience, you kind of intuitively knew when would be a helpful time.
Yeah. Apparently.
So lovely. Um, in your school life, were there places where you could see that aware parenting helped you in school life?
Yeah. I mean, one way is just in having choice. So I mentioned earlier that I went to this alternative school until 3rd grade, and then I was the one who chose to switch to a different school. And
Yes.
I certainly appreciate that. I also really appreciate the experience in the alternative school, which obviously stemmed out of the approach to parenting that my parents were used, that they wanted to make sure I got a positive early school experience as well. And I think that was really helpful and valuable for me. I remember as when I got older, like junior high and high school ages, so like age 12 on up, I put a lot of pressure on myself around getting good grades and doing well in school. But at the same time, I had an awareness that this was what was going on. And I think that was certainly because of being aware parented. I actually read John Holt's book, Punished by Rewards, when I was in high school. It doesn't sound like normal high schooler reading necessarily, but I was just really interested in it, and I struggled with the fact that I thought grades were just so wrong and unhelpful, and yet I pressured myself to get good grades. And I really had like a conflict about that. But I mean, I feel like being aware of that at least was better than not being aware of it and just believing that grades actually said something about my worth.
Yeah, so you always have those
Yeah.
the two parts in you. I wonder, I don't know whether, I always remember when Alita, your mum first came to stay with us when Lana was 3, and she was the one who told me about the whole highly sensitive child piece, which was so helpful for me and for our family, and to bring that into my understanding of aware parenting. And my experience often is highly sensitive people or children are more influenced by those kinds of things, what other people think, or wanting to know whether that was a helpful piece.
Yeah, actually that's I probably should have mentioned early in the conversation for the people watching, but I am very highly sensitive, in case you can't tell. And that certainly has influenced my entire experience of life. And so, I can't say how it would be to be an aware parented child who is not highly sensitive. It's going to be a different experience for sure.
Is there anything that you could say on that? Because I know I'm highly sensitive, and my daughter and my mum, and you know, again, parents who are practicing aware parenting with younger children who are highly sensitive. I think often highly sensitive people do get drawn to aware parenting more than kind of the percentage in the population, and often feel concerned about how to help their highly sensitive children to, you know, maybe go to school or to spend time in groups, those kinds of things. And I know this is totally off the cuff. We didn't talk about this before. Is there any that you'd like to say about that?
I mean, first of all, I think that aware parenting is really great for highly sensitive children. I mean, I would say it's crucial for highly sensitive children.
Yes.
I know so many adults who are highly sensitive who weren't raised this way, and my experience of life is very different from theirs, and they have a hard time in a way that I'm grateful that I don't.
Could you tease that out a little bit in the way
Yeah.
See the differences? Is that possible?
Yeah, well, mainly what I'm thinking of is that I can think of multiple people I'm pretty close to who are highly sensitive who are prone to depression. And I'm not. I'm not at all prone to depression. I've never experienced that. And I attribute that to the way I was raised in combination with, like, that I think highly sensitive people in general may be more likely to be prone to depression, but that the way I was raised allowed me to come out as, I would say, an HSP optimist. That I love life, and I feel so grateful that it's allowed me to be that way.
Lovely. So glad. Yeah. And to me it makes perfect sense, because, you know, even as we're talking, that, and that's my experience too, is that highly sensitive people, we do tend to be more affected by things and have bigger feelings about things that maybe non-highly sensitive people may not have, like just being in a busy shopping area and highly sensitive children too. But so the fact that those feelings get to be expressed often at home, and they get to cry and to release those feelings, I think means there's less of those accumulated feelings sitting there in the system for highly sensitive people, which makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the people who are highly sensitive, who learn very young to repress their feelings and not have them, and they've learned to create this whole, like, you know, black hole inside them where all their feelings are, and that it's not safe to have them. I mean, so what I would say to parents of highly sensitive children is, you know, let your children have their feelings, of course, and just be aware of that their needs are going to be different, that they're going to get overwhelmed more easily, especially in social situations or, you know, out in the world in any form. And respect that. At the same time, like, it's not, I mean, it may be appropriate to push your child sometimes to try new things. Like, you don't want to just totally be like, and maybe it's hard to find that balance, and you might make mistakes, and that's probably okay.
Yeah. It's that balance, isn't it, of the compassion and the understanding. Yes, that's overwhelming, and sometimes that encouragement, like, I'm going to be here, or you can do this, and that encouragement can be really helpful. And the other thing I found is that often highly sensitive children often take longer, or they'll be later to do things like sleepovers, or my daughter, the kinds of things, and to me that was so helpful to see that as very natural and normal for highly sensitive children to want to do those kind of more group or separate things a little bit later or quite a lot later than maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I read all these books as a child where the children went away to camp in the summer. Yes. And I was like, oh my God, like I would never have wanted to do that until, I mean, even going away to college was hard. So, that's fine if your child is not comfortable staying away from home
Yes.
in the summer without you to go to camp.
Such a lovely thing, and that combination of understanding the whole highly sensitive child or person piece and the listening to feelings piece. I think we're parenting. I'm so grateful that Aletha shared that with me, and I love that I get to share that with other parents to understand it's really, it's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing wrong. It's simply it's a different kind of nervous system, a different way of being in the world, and requires different responses.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for bringing that in. I'm so glad that we got to talk about that. I don't know if you want to say any more, but the last question we had on this piece was about being a teenager and not needing to rebel. Is there something you want to share about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, it's like one of those things where that's what was normal. Like, to me, it was really weird that anybody would need to rebel against their parents. But I mean, that said, I think that what all teenagers and young adults have to go through is this process of individuation from their parents. And for children who have been raised authoritarian, that's going to take the form of rebelling often. But for me, I mean, so I had to go through that process, but it wasn't like this, like, break, right? Or this like painful, like pushing away or anything. It was more just like a gradual kind of recognition of myself as a unique individual, like realizing that it's okay to not believe all the exact same things as my parents and not do everything exactly the way they did things. But it's been like a relatively gentle process. Yeah, I think the other piece here is also that being not only highly sensitive, but not being like a big risk taker, a sensation seeker.
Yes.
I didn't seek out any sort of those types of behaviors that teenagers often do. And again, I can't say if a child, is raised this way, but is more of a sensation seeker, like they might be a little more experimental. Yes. But I would expect that it still wouldn't be in this like violent break from the parents kind of way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's maintaining what I'm really hearing you saying is you still had that sense of connection, but it was really an individuation where you increasingly could see the differences, where you were unique and where you had different thoughts or values or desires to do things differently to your parents. But it wasn't in a kind of angry, rebellious way. It was simply knowing yourself more.
Yeah, I was always very connected. I mean, I'm still very connected to my parents, and they were always a source of support for me as a teenager and into adulthood. And it was great to have that bond.
Lovely. Yay. So as we come to an end of this conversation, is there anything that you want to say to I imagine it's mostly parents, but anyone who's listening, is there anything you want to kind of share, one last kind of piece around anything that pops into your mind?
Yes, I mean, I just feel like our parenting is so powerful because your child is set up to be resilient as a result. And so, like, the exact experiences of childhood, like, I feel like everything I've said, like, memories of being punished at school or all of that, like, fundamentally I had this resiliency and this safety at home, and I think that's the part that's so critical.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Sarah. And I think again and again, I see that it really touches so touch. I'm so glad that you had these experiences. And again, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think often parents will say to me things like, if I listen to their feelings and I don't punish them and reward them, how are they going to get on in the real world? Are they going to be kind of selfish? Are they going to just want always for everyone to listen to their feelings? And I love what you're saying is that resilience, that you knew that you could go home, you could share whatever was going on for you. There's no punishment, and that resilience that it gives. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. It's great to hear your reactions to what I'm sharing, and yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for me, because it's been such an honor and a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you on behalf of those who are listening, because I imagine to really hear firsthand what it's like, and your reflections, to me, so touching, and I imagine very reassuring for parents. So thank you so much. And for anyone who wants to watch or listen, we're gonna go now and record part 2, which is about really how you see impact of aware parenting now on how you are with things and feelings and all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
watch or listen. And anyone who's maybe new to aware parenting or Aletha Salter's work, her website is www.awareparenting.com. Amazing work. I recommend all her books, all her articles, all her everything. Just amazing, groundbreaking work. So thank you again, Sarah, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.